morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's CC-Webinar.Live keynote and panel discussion session. And thank you for joining. We would like to also thank to our official sponsor for hosting today's CC-Webinar.Live session. Now, I would like to pass on the microphone to our moderator to introduce the speakers and panelists. For audience, if you have any questions to our speakers, please do use the chat box option throughout the session. That's all from my side. Now over to our moderator.
Thank you so much, Aurelia, and I'm delighted to welcome you all out there, and I'm happy to see you and to listen to you. Today we're gonna discuss the next panel discussion and knowledge sharing session here with sponsored by Haud. And we're going to discuss actually, can you keep the pace? And driving A2P revenue growth starts with protecting your subscribers and your clients. So stay tuned with us because we have a lot of things to discuss with you. And I'm very happy to give the keynote speaker and the panelists a quick moment to introduce yourself. So Joanne, over to you, please.
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. And please let me say thank you very much for joining us here today in the virtual studio, as well as online. My name is Joanna Kulikowska. I'm Head of Global Market Intelligence at Haud. Just a few words about Haud and who we are. We are a technology company that helps mobile operators, our customers, to stay in control of their entire messaging business and strategy, putting them in the center of this control using our solutions around network protection, enforcement, and SMS monetization. I'm really excited to be here today to speak with Max and Laurence, and of course you, Eric. And it's very hot in London.
Well, that's good to know, and I hope it remains very hot in London because that means that you will have a very nice summer. So thank you, Joanne, and welcome, and fantastic to have you. And so over to Paris, I think, Laurence.
So hello, everyone. This is Laurence Duvezin speaking. I am in charge of marketing messaging within Orange International Carriers for at least 4 years now. And really very happy to be with you here today. And in Paris, it's very hot too.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm also happy for you, Laurence, that it's very nice weather in Paris, in that beautiful city. So thank you very much and welcome to you as well. An honor to have you here with us. So last but not least, to the gentleman, the one and only gentleman here on the panel next to me is Max Vertuman. So Max, please, floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Max Vertuman from Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier. I'm a product manager for IP transit and DDoS defense. So I'm looking after interconnecting networks and protecting them against attacks.
Thank you very much, Max, and fantastic having you on the panel again. So thank you so much. So Joanne, can you keep pace? Because this is, let's say, the topic, and maybe you want to start off with let's say, a presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, we will have a new thing here because we'll have an interactive presentation, including the panelists. And please stay tuned and listen to us. And if you have any questions, put it in the chat box and we'll refer to your questions. So Joanne, over to you. Please share whatever you have to share with us.
Thank you, Eric. I think I'm screen sharing already, so if you can kindly confirm if you can see the presentation. Great. So going back to your question, can I keep pace? Well, as a passionate runner, pun very much intended. Yeah, I love talking about pace and running, but today it's not about that, obviously. So yeah, I'm very honored to talk about pace. So our strategy as Haud to help operators, mobile operators, to drive A2P revenue that, in our opinion, starts very much with protecting the network and subscribers and customers. So I would like to just do some quick housekeeping. As Eric mentioned, we would like to keep this session very much interactive. So we will be asking some questions throughout. So do please have your say and take part in the voting. as much as you can. So it's a very simple way to join the Slido. Just please go onto your mobile, type in slido.com and input the code you can see on the screen, which is 711970. And then you'll be able to take part in our interactive polls. And of course, we will also be keeping Eric will be keeping eye very closely on the chat box. And if we have any questions, we will be very happy to cover them.
Super, Joanne. Could you please do me a favor on logistics? Yeah. Share, please, the bigger screen. So if you can make it bigger, so that would make it for everybody out there a bit better to see and to view it. Perfect. So amazing. Guys, go to slido.com and put in the code.
So what I would really like to start with is, how do we see SMS and the state of SMS today? Obviously, year on year, we've seen SMS market, A2P SMS market growing and going strong, and more brands are putting their trust in SMS messaging to support their products and services. And year on year, the whole sector is projected to grow significantly. COVID-19 was a really transformative moment for messaging. The global pandemic is viewed as this defining moment that transformed A2P messaging from a mainly functional channel to mainstream communication channel along TV or social media, internet, basically, which was a massive change. So what COVID-19 has shown actually is that organic growth of messaging use cases is still enormous, because we have really seen it happening, I saw in 2020 and 2021. Basically, all operators we talked to experienced double or close to double digits growth in the last 24 months when it comes to the A2P messaging business, which is quite incredible. And what's really interesting is that we have seen some new use cases of SMS coming. So first of all, more businesses using SMS for notifications, verifications, and marketing, as they have been forced to adopt a mobile-first strategy due to national lockdowns. Lots of brands reconnecting with the customers by letting them know latest updates about opening times, restrictions, and similar. But most importantly, SMS has proven itself as the communication channel for healthcare sector and critical communication, and has been an incredible tool helping governments and healthcare to share information about spreading of the coronavirus and vaccination programs. So this growth could have been, however, bigger, because still it is forecasted that only 70%, or close to 70%, of total SMS is currently being monetized by mobile operators. And the global revenue leakage on average is very close to about 30%, which is still quite high. It is also forecasted that the loss of revenue to grey routes will be at least $8 billion in 2021. And that is due to leakage and fraudulent traffic. So I would really like to understand maybe the opinions of our panelists on how do you see SMS today?
Thank you, Joanne. And then Laurence, can you tell me something? I mean, Orange being one of the big, huge operators around the world, from your point of view, how do you see the landscape of the A2P messaging market? Well, what do you see around you?
First of all, we've heard for years that SMS, talking about P2P, let's say, is going to, facing a huge drop. And it is not the case. So obviously A2P for me, is going to increase. Because, due to the pandemic, the usage has been slowly moving, as we were saying before. So if we discuss with our customer and if we discuss with Orange affiliates, it's really, A2P SMS is key. And monetizing SMS A2P is key. It's really a key driver of revenues for our affiliates and obviously our external customers. So for me, the landscape, it's going to be an open game, and the key issue is going to be how to protect not only subscribers but also mobile network operators.
No, absolutely, and thank you, Laurence. Max, both the ladies, Joanne and Laurence, they say that A2P has proven itself during the pandemic as a critical communication tool for brands worldwide. And I mean, you also work for one of the big guys and big operators in the world. So, from your point of view, how can operators push themselves to capitalize more on A2P messaging services?
Yeah, so this is definitely a tool these days, more than it used to be, because it's very universal to customers. Yeah. So if you use, for example, alternative messages, you have to have the application installed on your phone, and you have to have internet connectivity at a certain place. But with SMS, that's always works as long as you have a cell phone subscription. And this is an important key, and it's a very universal tool. Therefore, you can use it for A2P communication because it, let's say, always works. More or less, at least, and it's very universal and it's very direct. And yeah, I think there are enormous use cases out there for coming from authentication, or I just mentioned healthcare or emergency notifications, for example.
No, so you acknowledge that it has been, let's say, one of the most proven critical communications tools which are out there, and as Laurent said, it is still growing. So Joanne, we quickly, I mean, Laurence and then Max already said something about protecting, but let's go one step back, and well, what can you tell us about under what kind of attack the SMS are?
Yeah, I think the growth is something that we need to acknowledge, but there's a flip side to it as well. And I want to go back to what Max has just said, and it's the reach of SMS, right? Because of its reach and the really incomparable to any other channel opening rates and click-through rates, SMS has become a common tool for fraudsters. For fraudsters that are trying to steal personal data or personal savings of consumers, and practicing really fraudulent behavior, but also unwanted spam and very similar. So, when we think of spam or fraud, really, we never think of SMS. We always have email in mind, because, I very often say, I said to Laura, I haven't seen your email, it went to spam, because sometimes you have folders, specifically for spam in our mail clients, but then somehow SMS is this very trusted, communication channel. Therefore, and because it's so trusted, it is targeted by the fraudsters. Yes. So I think we've seen quite a lot of new types of fraud and spam, and I would talk about a few of them, but also would like to talk to the panelists of what has been seen in your respective markets. But the most common smishing types of traffic that we see is the classic urgent message that your bank account is locked or your credit card is being locked, with a link that is trying to get your debit card or credit card details or login details into your bank account. Or a very simple, you want a prize and click here to get it type of smishing attacks that sort of, tries to promote that maybe someone has won an iPhone or an iPad or something of value, but actually it's just a smishing message. Another one is the unusual activity type of smishing, which specifically targets popular social media platforms, and it's being used for identity theft, sort of taking over Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts of brands, basically trying to create a sense of urgency that this someone's social media account has been compromised. And specifically very popular ones here in the UK, and I think in the whole of Europe, are the ones posing to be logistic companies. Obviously, when we all turned to work from home, we started ordering a lot of things online. So we were always expecting some kind of parcel, whether from Amazon or a delivery company. So the missed delivery message coming from Royal Mail here in the UK, or Post Office Service, DHL, logistic companies, it's a very common attempt of phishing, and has been used for spreading the flu bot that attacks Android devices. And it's just, for example, here in the UK, it has been hitting the news so hard that everybody has started being aware that about the Royal Mail scam. So it immediately moved on to something else. So right now there's a lot of, you have a missed voicemail type of messages with a link being shared, and it's the same content. So yeah, I would like to understand, is this something, Max, Laurence, you see in your markets as well?
Yes, so these spam SMSs are all over the place. And if you work for an operator, all your friends and family typically ask you, hey, I got this SMS, or I got this text messages. What do you think about it? So just for my personal environment, I know many of those messages that my friends and family have shown me in the past couple of months. So I guess it's all over here in Germany as well.
Yeah, we see it everywhere. Laurence?
Well, I would say that depends on how we stand. I mean, if I take as an Orange mobile network operator, such as Orange France, for example, Orange Poland, the main preoccupations are definitely, phishing campaigns, because it can be huge, it can be massive, and then the regulatory body and then your subscribers are coming back to you, and it's huge penalties. If we go to other areas, let's say in Africa, for example, where we do have some affiliates, then the main preoccupation is revenue and how to monetize the SMS A2P. So depending on the profile of your customer, what they are keen to work, if they're facing, once again, a lot of phishing campaigns or such cases, then they are not talking that much about A2P revenues. But when it comes to Africa or Asia, for example, then the preoccupation is how to monetize and how to protect the network to monetize better.
Yes. Joanne?
It is very interesting, Laurence, actually. Before I move on, I'd like to comment on that. We see that in under-monetized markets, for example, and in developing markets where the operators are, that A2P is a very significant part of the operator's P&L. There seems to be more emphasis on monetization of A2P traffic. Also, we see that in a lot of these markets, the price of SMS is going a little bit higher. So therefore, there's not so much incentive maybe to use it for spam and smishing. We see more spam and smishing, of course, in the markets where traditionally the A2P price is still relatively acceptable. Or let me rephrase, actually the return of investment of a smisher is high because the price of SMS is relatively low. For example, UK is one of the cheapest markets, right? So therefore we have a huge problem with smishing. I'm just purely even talking from a consumer point of view here. So it's a very interesting observation, which I also can confirm we see across the globe. So just to move on to the next slide. So with the trust in SMS, the risk of the trust if SMS being eroded, of course, there is a threat that A2P won't be trusted, and therefore it will cause a decay of the traffic in the future, as some use cases might move away, especially around verification. And of course, we believe as Haud that MNOs, as well as actually the whole industry, cannot really afford to waste the reputation that SMS has developed over the last 20 years it existed. So the question here is really how can we protect the SMS reputation and continue the growth in A2P traffic and the revenue. And our strategy is very simple. It comes down to pace. P, protect. And protect is really an importance of having new generation SMS firewall that is able to deal with the everyday evolving threat, whether it's A2P bypass, spam, fraud, or whatever comes next, and it's able to tackle it. A for action, that is implementation and constant monitoring and managing the firewall proactively and really constantly driving the insights from traffic trends to ensure, well, A, maximum monetization, but also the subscriber protection to mitigate fraud attacks before they happen. And C is to create new strategies. So really new opportunities and revenue streams and looking beyond the traditional monetization models. And lastly, E for execute. So execution through technology and automation that actually removes the technology barriers for operators to tap into new revenue streams. So just moving on a little bit more in detail into protection. So a fully functioning firewall is the first step in making sure that we can unify messaging, A2P messaging across departments. So the revenue department and very often fraud department work quite separately in many organizations. And we believe that actually that goal should be common for the whole organization, and the revenue protection and monetization and subscriber protection should come together. But fundamentally, the foundation of effective monetization is really visibility. Visibility of what is passing through the network. So by locking down the MNO's networks and putting the enforcement rules across all entry points, it's really when the operator can see immediate benefits. And those benefits will be a reduction in revenue leakage, as well as increase in detecting and mitigating fraudulent behaviors that actually costs operators a lot of money every day in fraud prevention. So now I would like to move on to our first question of the day. I would really like to invite our audience to use the Slido poll and vote with us and answer the question: how much visibility and control do you have over your A2P traffic? So please, if you can try to go to slido.com and then give us some of your thoughts on how much visibility and control do you have over your A2P traffic.
So let's see what's coming in, Joanne.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Max, Laurence, perhaps you could share your views on this. Would be amazing.
Especially on the protecting, Max. What can you share with us?
Well, I think so. First of all, every operator should use, for example, SS7 firewalls in order to protect those valuable assets there. But also from an availability point of view, that's always a tricky thing, that the entire system is available. So attacks such as DDoS attacks, for example, can occur and congest the internet connectivity of the entire network and therefore its entire availability. So that's always a tricky issue there.
Okay, Laurence, we know protecting is key, and if it's key, from your point of view, are operators focusing enough on protecting their network?
That's a good question, because of course they are. When you come to the mobile network operators and then you discuss with them and you make a proposal, they are always keen to protect themselves. But the major problem is, and the major issue is, if you want to have a good firewall, as Mark said, you need to start by the SS7 layer, and then after that you cover the SMS layer. And the problem is that you need to implement a firewall within the premises of the mobile network operator, meaning within their own network. So they fear this. Usually technical people do not like, having other teams coming into and looking and doing stuff within the network. So the key issue is how to, let's say, reassure the mobile network operator that it's going to be fine. It's just to protect your subscribers, to protect your network at every layer. So that's the key issue. They are keen on being protected, but they are reluctant having someone coming over and saying, okay, guys, I'm going to look into your network and implement my stuff into your network.
Yes, which as from an architecture point of view, I can network protection point of view. I mean, Max can go far more in deep on this one, but from my point of view, of course, it's a disaster. You don't want to have this. On the other hand, there are companies out there who advise you and who can help you, especially on not only having made sure that your firewall is implemented and everything is fine, but also to manage it and to manage it correctly, and to sometimes what we see in the market is that not all the operators are always happy, as you mentioned, that other people, let's say, just check how well everything is. But as well on the market, I mean, talking about monetization, we do see, and as Joanne already mentioned, that 30%, or let's put it the other way, only 70% is monetized, meaning 30% is not monetized. It hurts. It hurts. And it's not only financially, but it's also the acceptance and, of course, the perception of your end customers. And that for especially for large operators with mobile groups like yourself, Laurence, Orange, and Max in Deutsche Telekom is key. And so I can imagine it's not always easy to accept it, but it's needed. And so, Joanne, how are we doing with our active poll? And ladies and gentlemen, the question was, how much visibility and control do you have over your A2P traffic? So, Joanne, with you, what do we see?
We see 12 responses so far, so thank you very much. And we see all kinds of answers, really. So we see most of, we have 76% to 100% visibility, which is great, and then some other answers as well. Just want to share some experience of talking to many operators, and sometimes the operators don't even know how much visibility that they have. It's just as simple as that, because the traffic categorization in sort of old-fashioned technology infrastructure is not so simple to implement. Therefore, the visibility can be there. I mean, we can see the traffic that is coming, but we don't necessarily know what's coming there. Yes, and through which entry points. But it's very interesting answers we're getting so far, and and really, really interesting feedback. So I think I can move on to the next slide, and if we have any questions from the audience at any point.
Yes, a quick one, Joanne, and for good for you to ask, because Serge, thank you very much for that question. It's more a general question, which I mean, we talked about the 70-30, and so his question was more like, what is the forecast when it comes to A2P SMS worldwide? What can you answer that, guys? What do we see?
The focus in terms of A2P volumes or A2P fraud volume, just in general, yeah?
In general, could be maybe in volumes and in maybe US dollars.
It's really, it's interesting question. And even, we can probably quote the 78 billion by 2022, and there are many resources that are forecasting what can the A2P traffic be worth in the future. I think my personal opinion is very difficult to predict that, because A2P is quite like a country-dependent market, and it really depends on the operator strategies in their respective markets, on what new A2P use cases can be created. And it will also depend very much on the commercial strategies. A lot of operators will basically deploy in their respective markets. We see there is a trend, there are some trends of some bigger OTT apps experimenting or implementing partially different or alternative forms of verification. And obviously the A2P verification is right now about probably 95% of the international SMS traffic. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a threat to global A2P volumes, and in some markets where the price becomes, for example, too expensive for some OTTs, they are threatening or at least contemplating to reduce or completely cut off some of their verification or different type of engagement traffic. That is one thing. The second thing is also when we look at the domestic traffic, and especially enterprises in the financial sector, the fraud aspect and the trust of SMS is becoming an issue here, because as the bad publicity on SMS continues, banks are also more keen to perhaps look into different forms of verification, sort of know your customer, mobile intelligence type of verification, which obviously can further impact the A2P volumes. I guess the question is, it's really difficult to predict because it's all in operators' hands to basically see what the growth will be. We believe even today the operators have more A2P that they're currently monetizing, and there is a lot of traffic there on that is being, well, we like to say, left on the floor. It's probably the traffic that is not being sent. It's not being the SMS that is not being terminated into the network because this use case, it doesn't exist. But very often there is no technology in the operator infrastructure to tap into those new revenues. I know perhaps it doesn't really answer the question, but I just wanted to offer some broader perspective on this, that we can forecast anything we want or anything we like, but at the end of the day, it's a very complex matter, and it can really go either way. Maybe my panelists can also help me comment on this. It's a very interesting question, I think.
Laurence, maybe you want to add something?
Well, yeah, sure. I agree with Joanna. It's very difficult to have metrics, but the thing is, because sometimes what is a bit confusing is you talk about A2P international versus domestic. Domestic is huge, is massive. So the numbers we have as volumes in mind by 2025, and I'm only talking about international A2P SMSs.
Sure.
It's 4 trillion SMSs, A2P. That's the volume we have in mind. But the problem today is really depending on the study you look, versus the sources and everything. It could be quite different. Sometimes it goes from 4 to 8. I even see one at 11 million. So, and I always think, I said, okay, we don't exactly know what are involved in all these metrics. So to us, to Orange, what we use is the 4 trillion by 2025.
Max, any changes on that number? Do you pump it up or do you pump it down?
No, I go in line with that. That's the figures I'm aware of as well.
You see as well. Okay. Now, questions are coming in, and thank you to the audience for your questions. And Nigel, really appreciate it. So we were talking about smishing. So what are we doing actually about mitigating the smishing scams and flu bot campaigns? I mean, going a bit into deep, I know. Max, do you have any? Can you share with us?
Well,
how do you tackle it?
With the, as far as I'm aware of, you can mitigate certain of those with the SS7 firewalls, but also it's a good idea to look at typically it's the same link with a certain IP that's used then for ransom, and we do and we can do the same mechanisms we use with email spam. with phishing attacks. From a provider point of view, we can look at the basically the IP behind that DNS, or we can block that specific DNS on our that specific domain on our DNS server that limits at least the impact of attacks like this.
Okay, Joanne?
Smishing, yes, of course, yes. Happy to comment here. Smishing is difficult, a difficult one, obviously, because it's very adaptable, and just a simple approach of, let's say, OA or CLI, sort of sender ID blocking doesn't work because this will be just changed very quickly. And same with the URLs. Obviously, I agree with Max, monitoring of the URLs, blocking them is effective, but they also adapt very quickly. So you can almost be reactive to that blocking. So it really requires a multi-layered approach that when we look at mitigating smishing, we just apply a lot of technologies. One of them is really combating the SIM boxes very well, because in majority of the markets is where the entry point the smishing occurs is SIM boxes. So controlling effectively the SIM boxes, it really reduces the smishing attacks. Yeah, blocking of the links is very important, but also looking at traffic analytics and applying sort of volumetric rules. So there's a specific pattern of fraud always. It's very rarely just a single message. So we look at traffic trends and also use the combination of those technologies to effectively block it, because just it depends on the market, but we see similarities, especially across similar markets like Europe. So we apply learnings from one customer to another and apply like a multi-layered approach of trying to really hit it with every single mechanism that we have. I don't think all smishing can be stopped as well, because we can always be reactive, but it's really reducing when you apply multi-layered technology. And I would say personally, markets that we see are most infested with smishing are the markets where the SIM boxes are not controlled properly in the networks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So Joanne, what do you say? Shall we go to the next slide?
Yeah, of course.
Or yeah,
I think
okay,
so.
cool.
Yes, I'll move.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on to action. Yes. So here, I think I spoke a little bit earlier about that A2P SMS is used by so many different businesses and verticals as a communication tool. And we can see as many use cases and types of messages as there are businesses that are using SMS for the communication with the customers. And I just want to refer to something interesting, is that when we look at postal services or delivery services, it's quite common that if you want to have your parcel delivered with priority or your letter delivered faster, then it costs a little bit more than just like a standard service. But it's just a sense of priority and urgency that we're paying for, and businesses and consumers are used to that. But when we look at SMS market across the globe, we don't see a lot of elasticity in SMS pricing depending on content. Of course, there are some markets where we see different pricing levels depending on origination of the message, namely domestic or international. That's maybe not so common in Europe, but it is in other markets. And we believe that, this is very often caused because of the lack of technology to actually apply more complex pricing or more pricing elasticity. And also it's caused by the lack of insight of what is happening in your network, what type of traffic is being delivered to your network. And it comes back again to the analytics. Yes, analytics that give you actionable insights that you can act upon. So here, I would like to ask another question to our
Cool.
audience, and it's a controversial one, so I'm hoping that we'll get some good votes on this one. Do you think all SMS messages should be charged equally? And would like to invite Max and Laurence to comment here as well, because I would really like to know your opinion on this.
If I may, to me, no, it should not be equal, because the value is not the same. You know, for security, it should be for OTP, for example, or messages like this. It's key. It's key for subscribers. It's key for MNO. Then for when it comes to let's say business messaging, market for brands, advertisements, there should be a price for sure, but it's not as key as security, let's say messages as we call it. I guess the value is definitely not the same.
And if I can ask you here, Laurence, why do you think it's not really common? What's your opinion on that? Why is it the same in majority of the market?
Yeah, I'm going to be very straightforward and very frank, because you know business models within telecom business. If let's just have a thought about RCS, which should be the future of messaging. We can see that it's just impossible to define a business model. You know, so business models are complicated. So I guess you know it's just easy. Maybe to have the same price today, but I think it's going to be slightly different, especially due to the pandemic, as the usage has been switching more so to advertisement brands and stuff like that. So, but you know, yeah.
Max, anything to add?
Yeah, well, I also would say it's a very difficult question, generally to say, and it's a but looking at things, when you have a good which is quality involved, so in our world, quality of experience, quality of service, the assurance that a message is properly delivered or a packet is properly delivered, to draw the analogy from the parcel services, I think there should be a premium for premium services. That's always good in those markets, because if there is a willingness to pay, then there's a willingness to transport it in a proper way for everybody and to receive it in a proper way. And we've seen that from the postal industry, we've seen it from the parcel industry, and we've seen that through the telecommunications industry as well. So where quality is key, there should be also some sort of price tag.
But do you think, and that's a question from the audience, and thank you for that, do you not feel that the difference in price is driving the cost bypass fraud?
Exactly. So that's the other side of the coin, basically. So if there is, let's say, a premium price and a free of charge or a very low price, then yeah, people or traffic, let's say, will find as well by some sort of least cost routing or so. And this is always yeah, opening up the floor for those fields or those ways. Definitely, yes. And we've seen that from other parts of the industry where a fraction of a cent per unit, yeah, let's say voice fraud, for example, feeds an entire industry somehow. Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah. So on the IP side, where let's say we have net neutrality as a big driver in the discussion, every packet should be treated equally. Of course, by basically, if you run a website, you put it on a CDN, the perceived quality by an end user might be different from just using a normal web server, for example. So some things are equal and some things are more than equal, let's say, I always like to say.
Joanne?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think I really hear both of you. I think personally that not all SMS should be priced equally. I think, and this is where we stand as Haud, there is more SMS there to squeeze out of the market, because we can see the spend on 8P messaging is still, and the potential of the spend is still yet to be uncovered. It's still only about 2% of businesses are using SMS. So it's an enormous market that we can still tap into. as an ecosystem. However, it comes with challenges, obviously. And there is no monetization without securitization. Hence, you really need to have a good firewall in order to be able to tap into revenues. And you need a good technology to manage that more complex pricing model, because it's not that simple. I completely understand that. And I completely, by the way, understand the hesitancy or the resistance of operators saying, well, if I apply lower pricing to something, it might cannibalize my existing revenues, which is a fair concern, obviously. That's why it all comes down to visibility, analytics, and enforcement of the commercial strategy. But I do believe there is more to get out from the messaging market if we can apply more price elasticity and stimulate new use cases that are not there yet. And this is how we can achieve a growth of this market beyond the forecast. And if some parts of the traffic streams will perhaps in the future disappear, we need to proactively stimulate the growth of new revenue streams. That's where we stand, and what I personally think. And I think we have 57% for no. So yeah, this might be a future in messaging, that we will see, like in other industries, more premium service level. Great,
right. We
have 7 answers, very good. So yeah, it actually ties really nicely with my next slide. So I can just, which is something that we just actually discussed right now. So this is the creation. So we believe that the creation can happen once the operator has the visibility and the full visibility and protection. It gives more flexibility in enforcement of their chosen commercial strategy, right? Because any operator can have their own chosen commercial strategy and pricing their SMS depending on content, but also perhaps stimulating some new use cases or specific campaigns, which is a completely different scenario, but it really offers full flexibility. And that really is something that we're very passionate about. And another part of this creation is that at the moment, majority of the operators rely on a different party in the ecosystem bringing their SMS volumes in, right? So CPaaS players, A2P aggregators that are actually terminating their traffic. So there's not a lot of direct engagement between the mobile operator and the actual traffic generator. That can be a bank and that can be a major OTT. Obviously, I understand operators don't have resources to go to every flower shop and every bakery that sends A2P notifications. So I'm not saying that the A2P aggregators are they're still your customers, but it is important to build those direct connections with the enterprises and the big traffic senders, because that allows the opportunities of discussion and dialogue. And how can we create more use cases? How can we stimulate the traffic growth?
Okay. So
another question we have for today: what percentage of A2P SMS traffic passing across your network do you analyze to inform future monetization strategies? And it's an interesting question. I think I would like to ask Max and Lawrence, and how much of analytics do you use, and how much of the traffic analytics do you use when choosing your monetization strategy in your respective markets?
Laurence?
The thing is, it's a quite a tricky question, because it depends once again on the area. I guess when it comes to Europe, maybe it's easier to gather all information than other area. So today I would say that we are not using enough data we can collect to be quite straightforward. So I guess this is a room for us to improve.
Okay, Max.
Yeah, I think the same thing. You have to differentiate between the various countries, the various networks.
Sure.
Where Deutsche Telekom is involved. Overall, here in Europe, I think we are in a good way, and we have a good plan on how to move things forward. But I also assume there's still some way to go. Let's say, in order to somehow avoid also this great traffic that comes into the networks.
Okay,
or
thank
monetize
you.
it. Yeah.
Yes, to monetize it, sure. Joanne, so what percentage of the A2P SMS traffic passing across your networks do you analyze? What do we see here? It's quarter. So on the 4 people
very
who voted,
interesting. So different percentages, but I think we need to have 100% of data, and visibility is the most important thing, right? And that,
or to get as close as to the 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that's why the analytics and applying new business analytics technologies to telecoms is important, because on the other side, we're dealing with a very sophisticated business analysis, right? So I think this is, we have now 50%, but I'm very thankful for some feedback from the audience. This is really good insight. And I think just conscious of time, I'll be moving on to
yes,
execution.
we're happy to hear everything about how we should execute it.
It's really, I really want to talk about execution in a bit of a different context. So I might disappoint you, Eric. But I think we understand that to execute new strategies very often brings resistance and fear. And I think we touched a little bit. I think Laurence is talking about this a little bit. It brings fears of investment in a form of be it CapEx, be it OpEx, be it operational resources, or be it accessing the network, right? So all kinds of security issues. And it comes, obviously, to execute new strategies comes with high risk attached. But however, in this very data-driven world we live today, we really have to acknowledge that the big data has to come to the operator side as well. And as the strategies grow and scale up, so should efficiencies. So we believe that in order to really drive sustainable, scalable A2P revenue growth, it's really vital to implement the correct technology together with the operator and the partnership, right? So it all comes down to the cooperation between the technology vendor and the operator. And that combination of technology and the team of revenue-driven experts as well, so experienced team of specialists that will be there with the operator to collaborate with operators, teams, whether these are revenue teams or fraud teams, and to really bring it together is the most essential part of that execution. So yeah, keen to hear your thoughts on this as well, Max, Laurence.
I think automation is key. Yeah, in an industry where everything gets around you gets automated, you can't pass. Yeah, you can't do it all by hand. Yeah, so that's very clear. And also the number of data, the number of traffic, the number of transactions, whatever. Yeah, we are doing by day. You can't do it by hand any longer. Yeah, if you would from phishing attacks, if you would check every new domain manually, yeah, you would need to deploy hundreds and thousands of colleagues to do that. Yeah, that's literally impossible. So you have to automate it. Yeah, and I think that's the only way to go. Wherever you can, you should automate things.
Absolutely.
Laurence, you want to add something to it? Do you agree?
No, that's well, I perfectly agree with what's been said. So.
Okay, thank you. Joanne, what percentage of growth in revenues from SMS A2P are you predicting over the next 5 years? And again, guys out there, we are on the poll. So please vote and give us your thoughts.
If I can offer my opinion here, and then really like to hear from Max and Laurence. It definitely depends where the operator is in the monetization journey, because obviously if we're already experiencing on a specific network, let's say close to 50% of leakage, right? And the incremental will be very big of the growth. But I think in general, we can say definitely we're looking to double-digit growth, and that's what we hear from the operators that we talk to. That's what we see in networks we protect, that the double-digit growth is 50% is completely achievable, and that is even without creating new messaging. Yes, so the growth can be much bigger, I believe. But I would like to hear from the panelists as well.
Laurence, do you agree? I mean, she's
year on
telling
year.
Because Joanna is. Please.
Once again, it depends from where the mobile network operator is. That's you will be surprised, because I cannot display all the data we have within Orange, but you will be surprised by the increased percentage of revenue that a big Orange operator that you all know might do with a well-protected network. I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I know that it really depends where the operator is,
exactly,
what strategies. I'm really talking about the market growth, yes, and I'm really talking about the standard market compound growth, and this is trying to take out of the equation the extremes of being like severely unprotected network or doubling the price of SMS or something similar. But I agree with you. It's very much the
yes. Sometimes it depends, because depending on where you are within the globe, it could be massive. However, it could be and sometimes you found some mobile network operators well equipped, So it's just a question of fine-tuning, of having a right partner for monetizations. The firewall is here. The question is more how to drive correctly the traffic, and that's it. And then when there is no firewall at all, then it can be massive.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would say it's between 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Of course. Max, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would agree with Joanna. It's definitely a 2-digit figure growth market.
Okay. So what's the outcome we see here, Joanne? From the
we see that, we see 50%, but we have only 4 people voting. I'm hoping some more people could vote as well. Maybe I put too many questions and tired our audience down a bit with the poll. But I think it's a difficult question. I think we touched it before. We see where the market goes. There's definitely potential for more than the double digit, but I think we can expect at least that.
Okie dokie.
So I'll be moving on to my last slide of the day. So I think today we spoke, it's just really wrap up and on our strategy, and our strategy is really the complete messaging revenue platform to securitize, monetize, and automate messaging revenues. We spoke about many pain points today of MNOs, leakage, fraud, resources, internal constraints, trust, erosion of the trust in SMS due to fraud, and ways to mitigate. And we created our solution in order to mitigate those pain points. And our complete messaging revenue platform allows MNOs to, well, protect and secure their traffic through the next generation firewall, basically. But it also enables and empowers the MNOs to move beyond the traditional barriers of the A2P revenue generation and truly own their own messaging business and execute the strategy they want to adapt and grow this traffic incrementally as they move along with us. And of course, it can be all automated and fully managed service from our side. So for any more details, we're very happy to answer any questions that maybe haven't been asked today. So just please do get in touch with us if you need more information about this. And by the way, the answers to all the questions with Haud will be 100%.
Of course, of course. So let me ask for all three panelists of you, and then maybe Max, I can start with you, if the ladies allow me. What, from your point of view, is the strategy to follow, and what can we expect in for the future? What is your glass ball?
Well, as you can see, security will be more and more important for whatever kind of scenario. So from the confidentiality point of view, from the integrity point of view, but also from the availability point of view, because all the nice monetization strategies don't help if your network goes down. So from there, you need to protect your network on the availability point of view. And this is something where hacker groups come along and blackmail, especially operators these days, or network providers and large customers there as well.
Okay,
so
Laurence. Thank you, Max. Thank you very much. Laurence, what from your point of view or from Orange point of view is the strategy to follow? And maybe you can share, let's say, your thoughts of what you see in the years to come.
Well, I would say that, of course, having having a firewall, whatever it is, SS7, SMS, or whatever type of security is key, but it's only an enabler. To me, and we talk about this at the beginning of our webinar, is what is key and what is at stake is the service manager around it. Having the right people with the right knowledge, the right skills at the right time. Because, when facing, let's say, a new type of fraud, we need to adapt. And we faced this recently. We had, within a customer premises, we had the perfect firewall, the perfect partner, but boom, a new case of fraud. Then you need to be very reactive. And, machine is good, but human is even better. So to me, what makes the difference, of course, is having a very good firewall, no problem, but also is having the good resources and skills around it. And that makes the difference.
Cool, thank you. And Joanne, last but certainly not least, from your point of view, what is the strategy the operators need to follow? And what, I mean, you tipped on it already, but what's your future prediction?
Yeah, been talking about for an hour. Yes, I think it comes down to education as well. Education internally. We talk to a lot of operators that also bring up a lot of regulatory constraints in terms of blocking of smishing and fraud as well. So it really is about educating as well internal teams and also in local markets that we need to ensure that SMS grows and is trusted moving forward. But I would advise any operator to not be scared to use advanced technology, especially when partnering with an independent partner that can really help you to drive the strategy. So, for example, what we do for our customers is that we collect a lot of market intelligence globally. Then we try to apply the learnings from markets, and that constant education piece, cross market, cross industry, is very important, I think. And I think the future is bright for SMS, honestly.
And Laurence will immediately say yes, because that was her slogan in the old days. I still remember. The future is bright.
Yeah.
So, exactement. So, ladies and gentlemen, we came to the end, and actually we went already a couple of minutes over, but we came to the end of this very exciting webinar where we discussed actually if you could keep pace in driving A2P revenue growth, starting with protecting your subscribers and your clients. And it was, of course, co-moderated by Joanna and from the sponsor Haud, which we like to thank very much. And I would like to thank as well Max and Laurence, and of course the two beautiful companies, Deutsche Telekom and Orange, for being with us, and Joanne, fantastically. Thank you very much. We have to do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
but I would like to also thank you very much, Laurence, Max. It's been an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity. I feel humbled and blessed to be able to discuss with you. I mean, coming from Orange, Deutsche Telekom, great insight. I really appreciate your honest feedback, and you were very open, and that helps us to build services for operators worldwide. So very much thank you for that. It was an absolute pleasure, and always happy to talk to you, Eric.
Fantastic. I cannot top this word, so that's why I was a bit silent. So Joanne, thank you so much. So Laurence, Joanne, Max, thank you very much. It has been an honor for having you here at the Haud webinar talking about pace. And for all of you out there, apologies that we could not answer all your questions, but the majority we did, and we thank you very much for doing
We'll
this.
definitely follow up on this. I mean, we will see all the questions, so try to follow up on this in some blog article perhaps.
Absolutely. And for now, the only thing I can say, ciao, stay healthy, and bless you all. And we'll give it over to the studio in Berlin, and stay tuned because there's more to come. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dear all, we are at the end of this webinar session, and I would like to thank to our speakers for sharing their knowledge with us. Also, thank you to the audience for participating and listening. This panel will be soon available to watch on the CC Media portal. We are looking forward to welcoming you at both virtual and physical events this year. Please visit our events portal for more information. If you are interested in sponsoring one of our future branded webinars, please do contact CC team. For all the updates and fresh content, please follow us on social media. Also, subscribe to our Telegram news channel to receive exclusive invitations to our upcoming CC-Webinar.Live sessions. Stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.